Right now, they're very pleased to have with us on the program from BigGovernment.com, Dr. A.W.R. Hawkins. And Dr. Hawkins, good to have you back with us tonight, sir.
Oh, Cam, great to be with you as always.
Today, as you wrote, is the one-year anniversary of the death of Border Patrol agent Brian Terry, who was killed. Again, the administration refuses to confirm whether or not the gun that was used to kill Agent Terry was sold as part of Fast and Furious, but two other guns recovered at the scene were traced back to Fast and Furious, and apparently there were three guns sold. The two guns that were recovered were part of three guns that were sold. And it's amazing that here we are a year later, Dr. Hawkins, and so many questions are still unresolved. Very basic questions in the death of Agent Terry and Operation Fast and Furious.
Oh, no, you're right. And first off, and I know you share my sentiment, God bless Brian Terry's family. But the thing that bothers me, Cam, is the number of questions that are answered that we're not acting on. And, the number of questions that have been proven that they have answers, but cover-ups have kept us from answering them in a timely manner. But we know about Dennis Burke. We know about Eric Holder. We know about the timeline. And yet it seems like the Congress, though I praise ISA and Gosar and I praise Sensenbrenner, it seems like they talk a lot, but no one is going after those who perpetrated this.
Well, no, absolutely not. In fact, Eric Holder, while talking about what a tragedy it was and how the effects are going to be felt for years to come, also said that up to this point he's not seen anybody who should be fired for what occurred with Fast and Furious.
Yeah, well, and that statement was one of the craziest statements I've ever heard, next to his statement that no one at the DOJ has lied about Fast and Furious. Now, someone has to have lied because we've heard too many timelines.
Oh, absolutely right. In fact, we were just talking about this last hour. Robert Mueller, the FBI director, was testifying today over on the Senate side, and he was asked about this, and he said, look, he said there was no cover-up, there was no third gun, the FBI wouldn't do this. But when you talk about the timelines, for instance, DHS Secretary Janet Napolitano said that when she flew out to Phoenix after Agent Terry was murdered, she was briefed, and she was asked specifically, well, did anybody bring up Fast and Furious? And she said, well, the ballistics test hadn't been done at that point, so nobody knew about Fast and Furious. We know that's not true. I mean, we know that the FBI, the guy in charge of the FBI field office in Phoenix, Arizona, mentioned the connection the day after Agent Terry's murder. So we know that that's false, and yet Secretary Napolitano insists that she didn't hear anything at all about Fast and Furious when she went out there a few days after Agent Terry was murdered.
You're exactly right again, Cam, and that brings it back full circle to your opening point, that's when you start to feel like we're no closer to ending this than we were a year ago, because the things that are factual and known, they have covered them and tried to make them so ambiguous that it keeps people from acting on it. And like you say, the references you're making, those things do not represent opinion. They represent facts. Anyone who has a computer and knows how to use Google can get a copy of the emails that were sent the day after Agent Terry was killed, and they can read the emails where the cover-up was discussed then and there.
Well, yeah, I mean, absolutely right. This is one of the other things that we know is that there were these emails going back and forth in an attempt to try to not just minimize, but try to actually block the public and the media from learning not only about the connection between Fast and Furious and Agent Terry's death, but Fast and Furious itself. I mean, and again, if they let it out that the guns that were recovered at the scene had been sold as part of this Operation Fast and Furious, then all of a sudden the public would have had to know about Operation Fast and Furious, and it was obvious that they did not want us to ever learn about the details of this program.
You're exactly right. And I'll tell you something I noticed, and Cam, you probably noticed it too, but over the weekend, following Holder's testimony, there were all kinds of people, Democrat and liberal spokespersons, sent out to say, look, the Mexican government knew what we were doing. This wasn't hidden from the Mexican government. And they continued to try to spin the lie. And I am amazed that at this point, 1 year after, Brian Terry's death, they're still trying new ways to spin the lie. They're trying to throw out new cover-ups to get us off the trail. I just hope it won't work.
I got to say, I mean, after watching the exchange between Attorney General Holder and Representative Issa, I don't think that it will. I think that the display that we saw from the Attorney General, the eye rolling and the cheek puffing and the heavy sighing and the attempts to try to say that the entire investigation is politically motivated, I think that's bothered some members of Congress who know that that's not the case. You saw the very sharp exchange between Representative Issa and Eric Holder over the matter of emails. Because Issa's pointed out, look, we've got 5,000 some odd documents from you guys, and not one of them is an email that's from you or directly to you. And Eric Holder would not answer the question as to whether or not he received any emails or sent any emails about Operation Fast and Furious.
No, I agree, Kim. As I watched that, I had the impression that Holder believes it was basically beyond or below him, that he's above having to answer for things. But at the same time, when Issa spoke, the whole tone of the room changed. It was almost as if, and in our culture, you hate to use this word because we're so against masculinity, but Issa was mad. There was a righteous indignation. Mm-hmm. And when he spoke to Holder, I think that bothered Holder, that Issa wasn't holding back on the emotion, that Issa really wants to get to the bottom of this. That was refreshing for me to see.
Yeah, absolutely. As I mentioned, Holder was very combative. The entire day that he spent before the House Judiciary Committee, I believe it was Sandy Abrams, Republican from Florida, who also asked some questions and got a lot of pushback from the Attorney General as well. So where this goes, I mean, look, Holder seemed to be clearly on the defensive. Issa said we're going to have a hearing in January, and basically said if we don't get the documents that we've requested, then it's contempt of Congress. I mean, that's the next step. So it looks like we're headed towards perhaps a New Year's showdown, Dr. Hawkins.
Which would be wonderful. And it's about time, because the lies are evident and everyone knows it. And it's one of those deals where you're watching, and you're waiting for the wheels of justice to finally come around. And I hope Issa will follow through and that will happen. In between Issa and Congressman Ted Poe and Sensenbrenner, and I believe you mentioned Abraham, between those men, I have confidence that it may happen.
I think it will. I do. I have. I still hold out hope that one day we will learn the answers, and the Terry family, in particular, are going to get the answers that they're looking for in the death of their son and their brother. Dr. Hawkins, again, I appreciate you coming on the program tonight, sir, and hope that we can have you on again very soon.
Enjoyed it as always, Cam. Thank you.
Hey, thank you. Dr. A.W.R. Hawkins joining us from BigGovernment.com here on NRAnews.com and Sirius XM Patriot.